Will be sharing with us this morning as our keynote speaker and helping us to understand a little bit of her story. Thank you.
Such a long walk. Lord, I feel like his graduation is so long. First of all, good morning and thank you to Teresa. Thank you to every volunteer, every student, every teacher, chaperone, person who just cared about our students and brought them here today. I'm very excited to be a part of the planning committee. I'm very excited to come speak to you all this morning. Rita J. Martinez Youth Leadership Conference is a big deal. A lot of people in this room grew up going to conferences like this, and if it wasn't for these conferences, we would have taken a very different path. Our narrative, our story would have looked very different. But because of a lot of the people in this room, the people like the ones who brought you here today, we are able to tell a different story. And that's what I'm here this morning to share with you. My name is Dr. Velia Rincon. I am the Managing Director of Teach for America. We are an education nonprofit. We have some of our teachers here today. Shout out to Precious Molina, Cristina Garcia, and others who are here as teachers from their schools. We know the power of being a classroom and a school and a community leader. And so I get to be a leader in the nonprofit world right now. But I was a teacher and still am a teacher at Pueblo Community College. I teach Chicano studies. For anyone who wants to take my class, feel free to come down to PCC. We also have this huge, amazing program that Judy Baca and Victoria Obregon run here at CSU-Pueblo. So we ask you to come check out our classes. A lot of us that I see in the room were mechistas, were people who took those Chicano studies classes, again, that are able to then translate that into the work that we do today. I am also a wife and proud mother of 3 beautiful, brilliant children that make me better every single day. I'm also a co-founder of charter schools. So when I was very young, right out of school, right out of college, I helped open Cesar Chavez Academy, Dolores Huerta, and what is now known as Velia Cruz Middle School. Yes, yes. And it was only done because of the power of community. Like, we only, as parents, were able to organize that school because community wanted it. Same with the conference here today. It was so nice to come into a room and feel like we were in a reunion, like the people who have been part of these conferences for years, and to be able to run into them and be able to have this in honor of our matriarch, Rita Martinez. I am also the daughter of the Chicano movement. So my parents were both field workers, and I'm going to talk about that. But I am also a child of the Chicano movement. And what that means is there have been generations and generations of gente, of raza, of our people who have been fighting in struggles. And it is because of them that I get to stand here today, that we get to inherit the power and the work that we do today, right? And so I want to give a special shout out, of course, to our matriarch, Rita J. Martinez. I feel like she is with me today, and so it's easier for me to come up here and speak in front of all of you. It's a sad, but it's such a joyous day because we miss her dearly, and we know this would have been 20,000 times better with her. But we are doing it in honor of her, and we promise her that we'll only get better at it. Also want to shout out my second mom, Shirley Romero Otero, if she can stand up, she's over here in this corner. She helped raise me since the 2nd grade, and I call myself her daughter, even though she's not my biological mama. She raised me. Me and her, the oldest daughter, Angelina, have been best friends since the 2nd grade when they adopted me into the Chicano movement. They took me on my first protests, the first conferences. They made sure that I knew my power early on as a young person and wouldn't let anybody shake my belief just because they knew the world was going to be hard. And so they gave me that armor from day one. So without Shirley, without the Ray, without Eddie Montour, like, it just would not have been possible for, again, me to be present with you today. We have a room full of elders, all these veteranos that Teresa talked about that have been fighting at every single issue, on every single corner, on every issue that you can imagine from, you see us protesting at the Columbus Day statue continuously every single year, and now more and more outside of that day, right? Like, it's so important for us to be remembering that it's Caprini Day and not Columbus Day. It's Dia de la Raza Day, not Columbus Day, and so we continue that fight. We have the fight around economic, social, and political issues, as well as education. So there are so many battles that get fought in your name, because the next generation is going to inherit our work. The world that you get is the world that they're fighting for. So when you see those veteranos, when you see those elders, you tell them thank you and appreciate all the work that they have put in for countless years. Also, we have a number of community organizers, volunteers, all in these red shirts all over the place, as well as those teachers and other chaperones that brought you here today. And, of course, University-Pueblo, who is in this corner over here. If you need to come talk to them, we want you here on this campus. I'm a University-Pueblo alum. And so before I went on to graduate school, this is where I started. And then we have Pueblo Community College, where I teach right outside these doors on this side. So please spend some time when you're going around to go talk to these colleges, because it's so important that our gente, that our raza, our people get into these colleges and graduate. We also have Servicios de la Raza, the Boys and Girls Club, the Women's Foundation, Gateway to College, District 60, Chavez Huerta, Preparatory Academy, and El Movimiento Sigue, all present, presente, and representing today. So it does not, yes. Y'all need to clap. Y'all need to wake up first of all this morning. Y'all would be mad if I was your 8 a.m. teacher, I swear. I'd be like, y'all need to wake up, let's do this. So, before I begin my story, I want to tell you that this next piece is about not just my story, but your story and our collective story together. So I, like I said earlier, am the daughter of migrant field workers. Both of my parents are from Chihuahua, Mexico. Anyone from Mexico presente? Oh shoot, come on, that was like 3 people, really? There's only 3 people representing Mexico in the room? All right, I see you. When you come out, it's so hard to be on a college campus. It's so hard to even go K-12. I remember going to school in kindergarten, not speaking a lick of English, and like being in special education classes for 2 years at Loma. I had to like take a bus for like 2 hours, 1 to 2 hours to out this elementary out in the boondocks. And I just remember just feeling always like I didn't belong, because I didn't, one, speak the language, 2, my parents were from Chihuahua, and like most of the kids at my school were white and identified as white. And so I felt all the time like, oh my God, like what are we doing here? Especially when you had people telling you always like, go back where you came from. And now, as I grew up, I own that power, and I own that because I always remind people, I have always been here. It is y'all that need to go maybe back to where you came from, but my people have always been here, right? So, all of y'all from Pueblo who do not know this fun fact, the Riverwalk used to be where the Arkansas River ran. And the Arkansas River used to be the northernmost border between the United States and Mexico. Y'all were born on Mexican territory. Before that, our indigenous land. The people that you saw here earlier today blessing the land that we stand on, it is important that we continuously do a land acknowledgement and understand we stand on native land, on indigenous land, right? But there have been countless borders that have crossed us since our native and indigenous beginnings, including when this, and in the entire Southwest and West Coast, including California, Texas, the largest states you can think of, were all part of Mexico. And then the border got pushed down to the Rio Grande, right? Without these conferences, without that history being taught in our classroom, it was really hard for me to feel like I belonged every single time somebody was trying to tell me to go back to where I came from, right? When I graduated from high school, I graduated most likely to start the next LA riots. So that means that I was a chola first and foremost, and so when y'all come to my session this afternoon, it is the Chola Fashion Show. I went to school and I never smiled. Literally, I was mad at the world. Literally, I was fighting everybody and anybody that looked at me wrong. But mostly because I felt so much injustice. I was angry at the world. I was angry at the world people would treat my friends. I was angry at the world when it came to just about anything that I woke up that morning just being pissed off about. And it took people in my community, like Shirley, who would sit me down and be like, you need to stop and think. And Mr. Montour taught me, you need to give yourself at least 2 minutes, Velia. You're worth that. Because do you want to be a warrior of destruction or a warrior of enlightenment? And for the first time, somebody told me my power as a leader, they're like, yeah, Velia, you can lead that. You can continue to lead people to do males, to do all the things that you want them to do going this way, or you can lead them in a new direction. What is it that you want for our people? And that was a huge responsibility in like middle school and high school. And so I had to change the way that I was showing up. And it was in those moments that I became a scholar, because you can't spell scholar without a chola at the center of it. Spell it out, S-C-H-O-L-A-R. You cannot spell scholar without a chola at the center of it, and I was going to redefine what it meant to be a chola. So I went on and applied to come to CSU-Pueblo because Shirley made me, and she's like, you're gonna go to college. And I'm like, hey, I graduated from high school. I feel very accomplished. She's like, now you're going to college. I'm like, what's college? And she's like, this is how you apply for scholarships. Okay, I'll just do whatever Lina's doing. And then applied to CSU-Pueblo. It was USC back then and got in. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to Pueblo. Everyone's gonna speak Spanish. It's gonna be raza, it's gonna be dope. I get to Pueblo, like nobody speaks Spanish, but it's cool, whatever. And it's not your fault, right? One, it's a colonizer's language, so we can have that conversation. But secondly, like in schools, the generations before me, like my parents' generation, they were hit in school for speaking Spanish. So it was against the law. It was against school policy for you to speak Spanish in the classroom. And you were physically hit if you did. So how many of those parents wanted to teach their children to speak Spanish in the next generation? So I remind people of that every time they take my Chicano studies class and they're like, but miss, I don't speak Spanish anymore, I don't know Spanish. Like, not your fault, let me tell you why, right? So when we go on, and if people want to blame anything, blame it that we don't know our native or indigenous languages, right? Like, at least start saying that instead. We need to start learning and re-indigenizing and decolonizing our world and our language and our purpose. So we have, I think, this trajectory that I was on, this journey that said, Velia, you're going to go to college, and then you're going to graduate and help take care of your family. Done. Nah. So when we came to CSU-Pueblo, we had to organize. We had to cut out a place for ourselves. So we became Mecha. And there's a lot of Mechistas in this room right now. If you were or are a Mechista, please stand. Yes, give the Mechistas a round of applause. Que viva Mecha. Into the classrooms, because before we were coming and we're getting access to college campuses. And for you to be here today, for you to be given these access, I want you to notice that, because it took their fight for us to be able to sit in these classrooms. Well then, I thought I was done. First person, first generation of my family to go to college. And nah, they said you're not done yet. I said, what do you mean I'm not done yet? You're gonna go to graduate school. I'm like, what the hell is graduate school? Like, I don't know, cholas, one, don't graduate from high school, don't go to college, and now I'm gonna go to graduate school? But then on April Fool's Day, no joke, I was accepted to the Harvard Graduate School of Education. And even though I can code switch and talk like a Harvard scholar and compete at the level of any Ivy League institution, and I can speak their language and code switch in the way that I did from Spanish to English to any Ivy League language that you want me to speak, I choose to use my voice, because Raza needs to understand that my children, the people from my community, the people that look and sound like me, deserve to be in those schools and are smarter. And when people are like, weren't you afraid to go Harvard? Weren't you afraid to go to Harvard? And I said, no, Harvard should have been afraid that I was coming to them, right? what I want you to go to those colleges and universities with. Let them understand and know that it is your power that is coming into that classroom, that it is your power that is coming to your class, that institution, that university. Because everyone in this world will try to empower you, to give you power. Say no thank you, just stop trying to take it away. One of the things that you have to remind yourself is that we inherited from Rita, from our indigenous ancestors, from the people in this room, so much power. Don't let anybody take it away from you, and know your own power. So your story is started a long time ago. Your story is to be a leader today, in the way that we had to be leaders when we were your age, in the way you have to be leaders when you go on to whatever you do after graduation. We expect that you keep this movement going. El Movimiento will continue because this is our story. The next chapter is written by you. So that's why we have gathered here today. So whether you become Harvard Hood or you do anything else in this world, please remember, you will always, always make Pueblo proud. Thank you.